All right, the second person we want to consider is Tsar Nicholas II. He really only has one idea, and this is to preserve intact the absolute monarchy that he has going. Nicholas II is said to have lacked intelligence, energy, or training for the job. A lot of time, he conveyed apathy towards everything. He fell back on personal favors as far as who to put in positions of leadership. The third person is the Minister of War, and this is regards to readiness for war. If you wanted to personify how ready the Russians were, look no further than General Sukhomlinov. Um, he experienced war in 1877 against the Turks, and he believed that that was the permanent truth. Um, he actually scolded a meeting of staff college instructors for interest in such innovations as a factor of firepower against the saber and bayonet charge. He hadn't read a military manual in 25 years. In 1913, he dismissed 5 instructors of the college who persisted in preaching the vicious heresy of fire tactics. He made no effort to build up factories for increased production of shells, rifles, or cartridges. And as a result, Russia began the war with 850 shells per gun compared to a reserve of 2,000 to 3,000 shells per gun used by the Western armies. Um, the whole Russian army had 60 batteries of heavy artillery compared to 381 for the German army. And you don't necessarily these specifics would be very helpful. And maybe really pick out a couple to focus on to be able to use. But just he was responsible for getting the Russian army up to date, and he did the exact opposite. All right. So what are the 2 plans of campaign here for the Russians? Well, this depends on what Germany would do, and we focused on the plans for the German front because that's we spend when we're looking at the Russian involvement in the Eastern Front, we spend a lot of time on what the Russians do or are not able to do against the Germans. They were able to defeat the Austro-Hungarians pretty handily throughout the war, but the Germans are the ones that are always going to give them fit. So the plan for the German front would be a 2-pronged invasion of East Prussia by Russia's 1st and 2nd armies. And so if you look, this would be the 1st army, and this would be the 2nd army. All right. The first one is to advance north. The second one is going into the south, so the northern part right here, the southern part right there. I look at those because we will pick back up with the 1st and 2nd armies of Russia in East Prussia when we look at the Battle of Tannenberg in late August. So just kind of keep that in mind there for the Russian plans of campaign, where they're going to be situated. So for Great Britain and Belgium, Great Britain did not devise a general war strategy in the same sense as all the other great powers. Great Britain had no particular desire for war to break out. They had no plans for expansion. And even though they were keen to protect their interests, we didn't really see Great Britain really push for war. Kind of saw them leading up to 1914 going back and forth between that idea of splendid isolation and getting involved with an alliance with France. However, once war did break out, there was this first focus here to come to the aid of Belgium. That was going to be the initial focus of the British as far as why they got into the war. When we look at British propaganda, it's going to focus on Belgium at first as far as how to recruit people. The British, as far as their readiness for war, they don't have a conscripted army. They don't have a draft. They don't have mandatory military service. But they do have the BEF, or the British Expeditionary Force, and that's going to be transported to the continent of Europe. And they're going to see action in Belgium, and they'll see action in the French left flank, that area of the Franco-Belgian border that was left undefended. That's where the BEF will come in there. And really, the British are only starting off with about 150,000 BEF soldiers at the beginning of this war. So the Germans have 1.5 million men going towards the Western Front, and the the British in comparison have 150,000. So we'll see how successful that Western Front is in the initial stages of this war in August and September. Belgium, they were neutral. The 1839 treaty, so they couldn't openly plan for war. Instead, right, upon the declaration of war, all right, or in this case, like a German invasion, the entirety of Belgium's armed forces, all right, were going to be concentrated west of the Meuse River, and really trying to, really trying to protect Antwerp up here, right? And you'll have some defenses here at Liège and Namur, all right? And 117 field troops are going to be located in this area along the eastern border between Belgium and Germany. Once again, Antwerp, Liège, and Namur. And we'll see those troops, that most of them, when we're seeing Belgium, you're going to see 117, maybe 180,000 troops combined. Most of them are going to be located in these series of fortresses here in Liège and Namur. That's where we're going to see the heart of the Belgian defense. That's where we're going to see where the Germans are going to have to march through. And it's at Liège and Namur that we will focus on Belgian resistance and how they slowed down the German advance into France. So when we're looking at this German advance into Belgium and France, and we're looking at the first, major turning point of the war, the Battle of the Marne, there's a couple of videos that I want you to watch. I have set up here 2 links. These videos are going to cover the German advance into Belgium, the Battle of the Frontiers, which is actually like 5 battles happening simultaneously along the Franco-German border, and then the Battle of the Marne. The first video focuses on the German advance into Belgium and the Battle of the Frontiers. So just watch for the general sequence of events, the outcomes of some of these battles, and the significance of these events to the outcome of World War I, or how World War I plays out in this first month. It's not essentially like, a necessity for you to get every nitty-gritty detail, but if you can say these are the points of importance here, here's what happened, and here's why it's important to the course of World War I, you should be okay. So watching those 2 videos, taking some general notes on those, you should be all right, and you should be ready to look at Tannenberg and the practices of war, dealing with trench warfare and the technology of war when we come back after our riding workshop.